The events of the end of July left no doubt that the whole world is preparing for a large-scale reformatting. The active phase began with Biden's decision to leave the election track. This stunned the Republicans and their candidate Trump, who built his campaign on butting heads with an older rival than himself. Now, compared to Kamala Harris, who is likely to become the Democratic presidential candidate, Trump himself looks like a strange fossil. Harris abandoned her previous campaign direction, citing freedom and the future as her main triggers. And while Trump debates her ethnic background, further shocking the electorate, Harris is already ahead of him in swing states. But there are still 100 days until the election, and everything can change. Although the trend is visible, Israel struck, killing Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh. The terrorists' friends, the Erdogans and Lavrovs, immediately howled about the inadmissibility of political murders. It was as if the dead terrorist was a politician. Now Iran is threatening to retaliate against Israel. In the Ukrainian direction, the Russians continue to carry out meat assaults, capturing ruined territories. Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine Sotnik speaks about the difficult situation in the Seversky and Kupiansk directions. Putin ordered the occupation of the entire Donbass in order to formalize his victory formula for the cave gang. At the same time, experts note the actual withdrawal of the Russian Black Sea Fleet from Crimea. The Russian troughs, covered in glory, moved away from the peninsula, hiding in the port of Novorossiysk. And the appearance of even several F-16s in the armed forces of Ukraine can qualitatively strengthen Ukrainian air defense and complicate life for the invaders in occupied Crimea, which is timed to blockade in all directions. For Putin, the loss of Crimea means defeat in the war, but he can also offer a trade-off. Although no one excludes the use of tactical nuclear weapons if Putin loses the peninsula. After all, it was with Crimea that everything began. It's logical that everything should end there. Ukraine's strong position will push the Kremlin to negotiate, and it is unknown how the system will react to this. Businesses losing billions of dollars are already unhappy, and there are signs that big businessmen can pay for a reboot of the system by removing the odious dictator by force. After all, the generals, tormented by the FSB officers and Belousov's auditors, also look askance towards the bald man. But for now, Putin is conducting military exercises and demonstrating his readiness to butt heads with the West by caulking the cave over its entire area. He blocks the enemy video hosting YouTube and prepares the population for the inevitable disappearance of imported medicines, food, clothing and equipment. There will be minimal imports, and since the cave has only rockets and icons, the deeps will be asked to pray and prepare for the last battle with the West. In the meantime, probably the last exchange has been completed, which is already being called historic. Putin's hostages were exchanged for members of Putin's gang who were languishing under court sentences in prisons in the US and EU countries. From the cave side, the exchange took place as a cover operation. The company of journalist Gershkovich and Marine Willan was diluted with the secret agent Yashin's so that life would not seem like honey to the West. This horseradish dog will probably have to strengthen the good Russian opposition by accepting the banner of the fight against Putinism from the hands of the late Navalny. Yulchka did not pull it off, dousing her grief with high-quality alcohol, and now Yashin and a group of injured Navalnists will pull the burden, taking away the meager food from the pride of wolves and songbirds. And it is no coincidence that cave propaganda furnishes this exchange with the scenery of the Cold War. Putin plans to stink on the political landscape for a long time, at least until 2030, spoiling the air and dragging humanity into the rotten atmosphere of the 70s, with spy mania and far-fetched Russophobia. The bald bandit wants to live and shit, because he can't help but shit. Hugging killer Krasakov, he sends a signal to the whole world. We are of the same blood, from the same gangster litter. And the world no longer even winces, accepting this as an axiom. But something tells me that building a planning horizon on the eve of August is futile. Nobody knows how the situation with Iran will unfold. And the outgoing Biden promised 4 years ago that Putin's power would end under him. And grandfather was used to keeping his promises. And this promise has a deadline: elections in the United States. Time has passed.